Hmm. Oh, hello. Will parapsychology be mentioned? Parapsychology, that might be a topic all of its own. Hey, everybody. Everybody, welcome back. You made it. How are you doing? How's it going, gamers? It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, and we're at it again. I feel like my coworkers leave me out of stuff, which makes me kind of sad. I wish I were better at being likable sometimes. You're incredibly likable. Maybe your coworkers just have their own issues with communicating how they feel about people. I find that that is more often the case. People have a struggle with actually telling people how much they like them, how much they enjoy their company. Sounds like a them problem. What am I eating? I'm eating a crunchy piece of pita. I just needed something crunchy, so I grabbed a piece of pita. It's got a nice crisp to it. I have a fun one today. I have a fun one. We're going to talk about some weird psychology today. No parapsychology, unfortunately. Parapsychology is the study of supernatural or spiritual psychology, and that's a little bit more out there, but still interesting. I think we'll probably end up talking about that one of these days. But today, real stuff. Anyway. Sorry, I was just taking a look through the old question box. I'm cleaning up the question box a little bit because I wanted to get a better idea of how many actual questions we did. I'm just going through and deleting all of the requests to show feet, which there are far too many. I was watching the VOD yesterday, and the first thing I went to was me saying that people wearing sandals is like nudity to feet people. Yes, it has to do with the way that your brain is mapped, because there's a certain neurological map within your brain. Your different, parts of your body correlate with different parts of your brain. And the way that they're arranged within your brain is the feet are adjacent to the genitals. So for people who are really into feet, they get the same level of excitement as if they were looking at someone's genitals. Like, you might have to cover them up now. You're worried about wearing sandals in public. It's pointless because there are people who are into shoes. There are people who are into literally everything. There are people out there who will sexualize anything, so don't worry about it. Like, you put shoes on, you're just gonna set off the shoe freaks. They're like, ooh, a lady's athletic shoe. Ooh, a boot. That's just one of the fascinating aspects of human behavior, is that if it exists, there's probably somebody out there who's into it. There's probably somebody out there who that is their thing. Why do people even develop Why do people even develop kinks? A lot of it actually happens early on in your life. A lot of it happens early in life. We have, there's like a period in your childhood where it's like, it's not the same as like an adult attraction to something, but it's just something that you kind of like, I don't know, it holds some sort of significance to you, or it just, you're gravitated to it in some type of way. Maybe it's like a certain type of fabric or a certain like type of texture. The human brain's weird. Some people develop kinks as a result of trauma, as a way of regaining a sense of power and control over that trauma, but not every kink is tied to trauma. Maybe Freud can explain. Freud did try to explain it, and he had some pretty interesting theories on that. Now, I'm not here to kink shame, but there are some interesting and unique and kind of out there kinks. Like balloon popping. You might not think that people are into balloons and popping balloons. There are people who love cars. There are people who love, like, inflatable, rafts, or like, you know, those like animal shaped, or like, I saw an episode out of it on My Strange Addiction. It's this guy who was in love with a bunch of inflatables.
In this week's episode of J Abusive Weirdos that rub their genitals on in our...
This is yeah, this guy.
My name is Mark, I'm 20 years old, and I'm in a relationship with 15 inflatable animals.
He made them all a dinner plate. Isn't that nice of him? It's not a bad looking plate. You know, this guy's out here making full meals for his inflatable animals, but some of us can't even get somebody to make a sandwich for us. Isn't it weird how life works? The Central Committee raid. Oh, the Central Committee raid is here at the right time. We were just talking about this guy who. It's Weird Psychology Day. Welcome. Thank you for the raid. Make yourselves at home. Get comfortable, please. We're covering some weird psychology today. And we were talking about some of the more bizarre kinks that people have. And we were talking about this guy who's in love with his inflatable animals. I just started the video. I'll restart it for you.
My name is Mark, I'm 20 years old, and I'm in a relationship with 15 inflatable animals.
15.
My inflatables are the funnest creatures I have to hang out with in my life. I'll eat with them. What, you want my food? You get your own. Watch TV together. Be fine, I'll find a show you like. If I bathe my inflatables, let's get sure. Snap. If I do take my inflatables out swimming.
Mark's addiction to inflatables began 6 years ago when he purchased a whale for his pool.
So it started with the whale, I see. I mean, can you blame him? Look at that thing. You know what? I used to get annoyed by people like this, but they're not hurting anyone and they're happy, so let them live their life. That's what I think. I'm like, they're not hurting anybody. That's fine. We just brought this up because we were having a discussion about how do kinks form within a person. And I was talking about some of the more interesting and unique kinks that I've seen. This is barely scratching the surface. Like, this is still, like, very PG of all of the, you know, kink encyclopedia that is my brain. If you want to learn more about kinks, you gotta talk to Robbie P. Robbie P is an expert on kinks. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from Robbie about kinks. That's where I learned about full leather dippers. There's guys who wear a full suit of like biker leathers and then they like to jump into a pool of cow manure. It's a niche community, but it's still there's a community around it. Just like there's also a community around videos of women wearing high heels who are just stomping on gas pedals because their car is stuck in the mud. So anyway, it's Weird Psychology today. We've got a presentation later.
Since then, the 20-year-old college student has added 14 animals to his inflatable family and even prefers them over people.
The thing about inflatable pool toys I love is that they're soft, they're cuddly. The bigger they are, the better they are. Kind of means there's more to love.
Hell yeah, brother.
It's really nice to have somebody to talk to.
No, Sammy, you don't get any of my soda, okay?
When I first found out about Mark's inflatables, I thought that's strange, or how can you be into something that's not really real?
Mark first turned to inflatables for love and affection when he was 14 years old.
My mother really wasn't there for me when I was a child. First time I hugged my inflatable whale, I actually started feeling all that love and compassion that I never got from my mother.
This is why people like body pillows so much. The human body craves physical closeness. It loves a hug. This is also tied to the concept of hoarding. If you're familiar with hoarding, what happens in a hoarding situation is someone will make attachments to objects instead of people, and so over time they continue to just accumulate stuff, then eventually their house is just bulging at the seams. You have hoarding tendencies? Hey, this is stuff that can be worked on. You know, being a hoarder isn't a lifelong condition. It's a learned response. It's something that you can unlearn. You just have to recognize that I am forming attachments with stuff instead of people. It happens to everybody across, you know, age, race. Well, it's mostly a Western thing. You don't normally see it so much in Eastern civilizations. It's more of a like European and American type thing. We just love stuff. Orders. Interesting.
Now he's so dependent on his inflatables.
This kind of makes me want to
Separated
hug.
from them for more than a day.
When I'm at school, when I start missing them, and it's
I'll be
almost
honest.
like if I'm going a little bit
I could
crazy.
go for a hug.
Hey, Charlie.
Once I go home, basically give them a hug, give them a kiss, spend like family time together.
Okay, we can talk more about you if we want.
Let's say every one of my inflatables has a different personality.
A little down today, don't you?
Some like different types of music, some don't. Some like to just be lazy and sleep all day. I would say they get along together pretty well.
Yep. And then this guy likes his car, but some people are interested in cars. Some people like to eat mattresses. And that to me is the fascinating thing about human behavior. People are just so interesting, so diverse, and the human brain has nearly infinite possibilities as far as like what it's capable of and what it can attach to and what it can sense and perceive. Wild. You found your own fetish watching one of these shows? There are probably people, you know, statistically, there's probably somebody out there whose fetish it is to learn about other people's fetishes. Their kink is other people's kinks. Could happen. What is a fetish? It's just something that arouses you. Something that you're into. Romantically or sexually. It's a little worrying that they invent personalities for objects, though. I mean, it's really lonely. And it's a coping mechanism for being lonely, but I wouldn't say that it's like psychosis. This person isn't crazy, they're just sad and lonely. And sometimes when we're really sad and really lonely, we act in some really interesting ways. So how is a fetish a stuffed animal? I'll have to talk to somebody with a stuffed animal fetish. It's not really my thing. They get hard, that makes it a fetish. Not everybody gets hard. I hate to break it to you. 50% of the population, at least, would not get hard. Like, do you need me to go through the physiological science of human arousal? Pupil dilation, increased heart rate, increased respiratory rate, maybe a little bit of perspiration, an uptick in hormones. This is starting to feel like health class. Alright, we've got some questions in the box. We've got the anonymous question drop box. Let's go ahead and see what's going on in here today. I want to make myself a little smaller so I can fit. There we go. Just an update. This is an update from the other day. I kept my vow. I didn't drink last night. Hell yeah. Let's fucking go. Good shit. Good shit. People who teach recovery classes and who lead recovery groups and help people with their addiction will tell you very consistently, take it one day at a time. Worry about getting through today before you start worrying about how you're going to get through tomorrow. I still missed my class this morning from oversleeping. I messaged my professor to let them know I'm going through something right now, so hopefully they'll understand. They're a pretty chill professor, so I think they will. I'm in a better headspace than yesterday. Luckily, my cat threw up on the bed, so I'm having to clean my sheets, and I've been working on small sections of my room. It's a bit of a mess, and I'm starting to really notice how bad it's gotten. I think that was your cat trying to tell you, hey, we gotta clean the room. I'm gonna motivate you to start cleaning your room. So honestly, your cat was trying to motivate you. That's what I'm choosing to believe. It wasn't just a random, that your cat knows. Your cat's like, I need to motivate this person to clean their room. Shout out to your cat for helping motivate you to do that. Doesn't it just feel so cathartic, though, to have that post-depression clean? Nothing quite beats that feeling. Like every little bit of clutter and refuse and just everything that's untidy, it accumulates and it weighs on you. You know, if you live in a messy environment, it reflects in your thinking. Messy environment, messy thinking. Tidy environment, tidy thinking. I don't know if I can vow to not drink tonight. What we talked about yesterday, if you weren't here, was this person said that they were going to try to make a vow, and I said, don't make a vow unless you're going to keep it. Don't make vows with yourself and then break them. You need to have some more. You need to only make a vow with yourself if you actually mean it. We don't want to establish this precedence with ourselves that if we make promises to ourselves, that we can just break them. So, if you can't make that vow realistically, don't make that vow. But if you do make it, don't break it. I think I'm just going to aim to not to. That's good. I'm just going to try to be mindful and drink a lot of water instead. It worked yesterday, but thank you for the advice yesterday. It was very helpful. Happy to help. Just do what you gotta do to get through it. Take it one day at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time. It's the only way to get to where you're trying to go. Thanks for the update. Hopefully things go well for you. Honestly, once you're able to, like, get past the really difficult stages of alcohol addiction, it's like your life really does just get so much better, and you just feel so much better. It's like I've seen what long-term alcohol abuse does to people, and it's not pretty. It really just, it prematurely ages you. I worked with a lot of former alcoholics or current alcoholics, and they would be, 45, 50 years old. They looked like they were 20 years older than that. It literally just deteriorates your body. So good on you for doing what you need to do to separate yourself from these behavioral patterns. How do you manage being around people that you dislike? I'm in a situation where people I share a space with ruin the vibe with their main character behavior. Besides coming across as very entitled, they say things that create a divide within the space, and it just makes the environment hostile and cold. It's changed the atmosphere of a place I really used to enjoy, and I feel powerless to do anything about it other than distancing myself. Engaging with them or expressing my feelings isn't an option, unfortunately. That was what I was going to recommend, because communication is key here. If you have an issue with somebody, sometimes you have to have an uncomfortable conversation with them. Also, I'm wondering why expressing your feelings isn't an option. I hope that you're not invalidating your feelings or feeling like they aren't worth discussing or aren't worth mentioning, because they are. So, since engaging with them and expressing your feelings isn't an option, and that's what I was going to recommend, I would just say, just continue to distance yourself from them. Just try to tune them out. If they're trying to put on a show, if they're trying to act like they're the main character and they're just treating the room that they're in as a stage, then just don't watch the show. Just find something else to do. If they say something within a space to create a divide, just try not to pay any mind to it. Just bounce back and just redirect the conversation to something else, and just, talk to people that you actually enjoy talking to. If a person is trying to make the environment seem hostile and cold, then what do? We have to try to make the environment feel Friendly and warm. There you go. Good answer. Another raid. Hello, raiders. Welcome in. It's a busy day. Welcome in, everybody. Please head to the nearest brainwashing station. Ew is right. Have you seen my brain? It's filthy. I need a good brainwashing. I need to get in there with a toothbrush. Just get in all the grooves. An Instagram reel. Might have to check this out in a minute. What's the word on scat fetishes? I don't know, man. That's just one of the ones I don't get. I just don't get it. Some people are aroused by things that they would otherwise find repulsive. I don't know. It's just part of the interesting nature of human behavior. It's like the fact that it's forbidden, the fact that it's gross, the fact that it's taboo is what draws them in. It's what happens with a lot of obscure and, you know, the same logic could be applied to other fetishes that people might find gross, like anything involving, you know, like some people are into like some other like gross bodily fluids, like some people are into like spit and puke and, you know, I don't know. I don't know. But hey, as long as they're doing it between two consenting adults, that's what matters. You know, if it's two consenting adults, nobody's getting hurt, go for it. I don't care. Big one. So the poop recognition part of the brain isn't just really close to the sexual organ recognition part of the brain? Not in that case, no. No, that logic only applies to why so many people are into feet. Do I understand the psychology of Twitch? Probably better than most people. If you went to an average therapist who had no idea what Twitch was, they would probably not get it. It's a weird place. Hi Josh, I'm gonna start off with saying sorry. What? If you're new here, I just want to let you know that apologies are forbidden. You're not allowed to apologize here. It's against the rules. You're allowed to express how you feel. That's what we do here. I'm going to start off with saying sorry for how rambly this is going to be. TBH, I just feel like I have to say this to someone. I don't know. So I will say I'm really isolated, and it honestly is my fault. I have no friends, both online and IRL. I don't really talk to my family, and I just never really leave my house, so I never get human interactions. I can see it's affecting me because I'm starting to forget words or their pronunciation. I notice that I stutter a lot, and it's also making me my already existing social anxiety worse. I find all of this really stressful and scary, especially the words part. I'm really scared because I'm going to start school again this year, and I already feel like I'll fail. Beware a self-fulfilling prophecy. Don't believe that you will fail, believe that you will try your hardest. You might fail, you might pass, but don't believe you'll fail. That will contribute to the likelihood that you actually will fail. So believe that you will try your best. I already feel like I'll fail because I feel so behind when it comes to intelligence. I've always felt less intelligent than other people, but I think I've just made it worse and I don't know what to do. I really don't want to fail school, but I'm so scared of not being able to keep up because I'm too stupid to. Okay, can I just point out that you just used the correct version of 2 and 2? You can't get that from like 50% of people, I fear. You're already ahead of the curve. You're using the correct forms of words. That already sets you ahead of the pack. It's scary to think about because I'm 18 and I feel like I'm always going to remain less articulate, intelligent, and just way more boring than other people. Friend, let me just say, most people don't even know what the fuck the word articulate means. But here you are worried about how articulate you are. Let me just say, it's something that I've noticed personally. Smart people tend to think that they're really dumb, and dumb people tend to think that they're really smart. It's because when you are a smart person, you are very aware of how much it is that you don't know. But when you're not that smart, you kind of just assume that you know everything, and you stop learning. Precisely, it's the Dunning-Kruger effect. People who know very little about something make the false assumption that they know everything that there is to know about that thing, when in reality they just have a baseline intelligence about that thing. Anyway, no need to beat yourself up, alright? That's not going to get you to where you're trying to go. I want to see you give yourself some more credit, hype yourself up a little bit more, try your best. I'm trying to get back into reading books and consuming long-form content and stuff like that. But can I, I guess, reverse this, or become more intelligent? I don't want to be stupid anymore, lol, and I literally cannot fail school, or I'm convinced I won't do anything with my future. I feel like those things don't correlate like they did in my brain, so sorry. I hope it makes sense to you, lol, thanks for the advice. You get 2 bonks because that's 2 apologies. It makes sense why you would be feeling this way. And you're valid to feel the way that you're feeling right now because you haven't had friends to talk to, you haven't had people that you engage with, and sometimes that's why we have those people in our lives, is because they help to lift us up. Like when I'm feeling down and I'm feeling bad about myself, I turn to my friends and the people that I love because they are the ones who are there to help to lift me up. If you want to make friends online, we've got a great place for it right here. We're always accepting new friends. New friends are always welcome here. For me personally, I can't have enough friends. I'm always in the market for more friends. So if you want to practice your socialization, maybe get a little bit of, exercise in, it's a great place to do it. Got a nice, friendly, inviting, and welcoming community here, so feel free to join in when you feel comfortable. Give yourself some grace. Precisely. Precisely. Sometimes we need our friends to remind us to be nicer to ourselves. But honestly, you sound like a smart person, and you sound really aware. You just sound kind of lonely, and, you're anxious because you haven't engaged with people for a little while, but this is a start, and this is practice, and this is helping. So let's just keep going with it. We're here to help. Feel free to hang out. TikTok? Okay, hold on. I've got people who have been posting a couple links to a couple videos. Let me open these in other tabs, and then I'll get to them in a minute. Okay. Justice for Jeannie Wiley. We talked about Jeannie yesterday. We were talking about famous case studies, and we talked about the case of Jeannie Wiley. She was severely neglected and abused in childhood and was never able to learn how to speak. Despite being born otherwise healthy, she was deprived of human social contact during a critical period in her life, and she was never able to speak. Oh, you like the sound effect? That's the follower alert. I like the old-fashioned science fiction sound effects, so. And we learned about Jeannie yesterday. It's a very sad case, very horrific. Some of the most just severe and awful abuse that you can imagine, like literally just being confined to one room, or like to one part of a room, or like tied down to a bed, or like tied to a toilet. Just terrible. Thankfully she was, taken out of that situation, and she was able to, break free of that abuse, but she was never able to learn how to speak or otherwise communicate. That's one of those ones in psychology where you learn about that one, and that one, those are the kind of ones that stick with you. I can't stop crying, and I just don't know what to do. I honestly realized I'm a really angry person, TBH, and I just wish I could get my anger out in some other way. My eyes hurt, and the anger inside me just gets worse. Do you believe yourself to be an angry person, or are you just a person who is dealing with anger? We want to try to step away from the idea that anger is just a part of who you are. It's just the way that you are. You're just wired for it. Rather, we want to try to take a look at why we feel angry? Like, why is the anger there? Where is it coming from? Anger is one of those things that you can hold on to for a lifetime. It's also something that you can spend your whole life learning how to let go. But if you actually take a meaningful effort on learning how to let it go, on learning how to move past it, it doesn't have to take a lifetime to do that. One of the ways that I found helpful in managing anger or regulating feelings of anger within myself is through practiced laughter. When I catch myself getting angry, sometimes I like to just have a chuckle at how upset I got, or I like to have a chuckle at how frustrated I feel. I try to just find some humor in it. If you can learn how to laugh at yourself, you'll never run out of things to laugh at. So beyond that, what can we do with these feelings? Maybe try to channel them into productivity, or channel them into meaningful action. Anger is one of those things that can take some time to unravel. You may have to look back through your history to find the source of where it came from. Like, who might it be in your life that you are still holding anger towards? Or maybe there were events or situations or accidents, things that happened that left you feeling these unresolved feelings. Anger and frustration are a byproduct of unresolved feelings. Old hurts, old wounds, old fears. Unprocessed stress. You have a dad joke, but you can't get the wording right? Just keep trying, son. But one day you will reach the rank of dad. What I found helpful in learning to control anger as well was practicing meditation. And in those moments when you feel anger starting to build up inside you, just pause for a moment, close your eyes, focus on your breathing. Just try to breathe as relaxed and slow and calm as you can. And just watch that anger inside you. Just try to observe it as if it were a thing inside your mind, rather than if it was how you're actually feeling. You're trying to take a step back from it and just watch it. A lot of times we feel angry because it's trying to motivate us to do something about a problem that we might be facing. But anger is very rarely the correct solution to dealing with a problem. That's why I like to say it stems from those old frustrations of those unresolved problems. Like maybe something happened growing up that you hung on to and you never felt heard or validated about it, and you never had a chance to really communicate how much that hurt you. And so you've just had these lingering feelings for years or decades. And now today it manifests in the form of quick to anger and easily frustrated. Free them? No. No. Like, I get it. People are in need of mental health, but when you just come in and you post a paragraph of, like, schizophrenic manifesto, it's just like, I'd love to help you, but you probably need to go talk to a doctor and get prescribed an antipsychotic. And I... yeah. Hear me out, though. Next time you feel yourself starting to get frustrated or angry about something, just try to have a laugh at it. Just try to laugh at the absurdity of your response. Maybe some minor thing happens and it makes you really angry. Try to get a chuckle out of that. Be like, wow, look at me. Isn't that kind of silly? Isn't that kind of funny? That I got so angry over something so little. I personally found that helpful. It helped me to not take my anger so seriously, and in not taking it so seriously, it lost its control over me. It takes time, it takes practice, but just keep working on it. It will get better. Let us know how we can help. Do you think that being constantly indulging in other people's problems and misery, or people that are not happy, can have a negative effect on your mindset and mental health, either consciously or unconsciously? Yes, and also both. It can have a conscious effect on you, it can also have an unconscious effect on you. This is why burnout is so high and why turnover rates are so high in the mental health field. It can be really stressful to work in a job where you have to constantly prioritize everyone else's needs, and then you feel like by the time it's time to get around to your needs, you're exhausted and you can't do the things that you want to do because you had to spend your whole day fixing other people's problems and making other people's lives better. Which is why a healthy work-life balance is essential. That's why you have to show yourself the same love and compassion as you do to other people. You can't be out here setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Do you think it's common for therapists to have their own therapists? Yep. There's a saying in the therapist community, every therapist needs a therapist. I feel like everybody could benefit from therapy. A lot of people get what serves as therapy for them from other places. A lot of people, consider bartenders. You think of how much therapeutic work bartenders have to do. Sex workers, a lot of people will pay escorts just to spend time with them and talk with them. They need companionship and they just need somebody to talk to and show empathy to them. But yeah, absolutely. I absolutely feel like constantly indulging in other people's problems and misery can have a negative effect on your mindset and your mental health. Absolutely. And people handle it in different ways, and people respond in different ways. Some people become, more cold and detached. Some people become, more anxious, and some people become depressed. Do I know about EMDR therapy and how it works? Hell yeah. I'd be happy to tell you about EMDR. EMDR therapy. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That's what it stands for. It actually works in a really interesting way. So, if you're unfamiliar with EMDR therapy, it's something that they commonly use with people who are dealing with PTSD. This is primarily a form of therapy that is used to help people process trauma. So, EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. One of the things that they will do in EMDR is they will have a light. It might be like on a bar that kind of bounces back and forth. Let me show you. And you can actually buy these bars online. There's actually different techniques that you can practice this at home. So basically what happens is this light moves back and forth and you follow it with your eyes. And then while you're following the light, you talk about your trauma or you think about your trauma. Part of what is occurring here is similar to the mechanisms for human dreaming. Because our understanding of trauma is this. It's basically stuck in the region of your brain that is used for short-term active memory processing. things that are happening right here, right now. And this is why people who are dealing with trauma might have flashbacks. They might feel like they're still there. And it's because that's the part of the brain that it's in. And one of the things that is supposed to work with EMDR, and they've found that it does help a lot of people, is the eye movement. During which stage of sleep do you do the most dreaming? You do it during the rapid eye movement section of sleep. There's something correlated between the movement of your eyes and the processing of information in your brain, or the movement of things from one region of the brain to a different region of the brain. Pretty cool, huh? It took you for a while to get on board because it felt like pseudoscience. I agree. It does kind of sound like pseudoscience, but when you look at it that way, it's like, okay, what does dreaming do? Dreaming helps to basically reorganize your brain. It helps to determine what should be placed in the long-term memory storage of like your hippocampus, and what parts of your, consciousness should we let go. Like, that's what dreaming is all about. It's about deciding what should I keep, what should I get rid of. It's your brain like tidying itself up. And this is doing that, but while you're awake, while you're conscious, and you're doing it intentionally. And it can help people in that processing of their trauma. I know it sounds like pseudoscience, but dreaming is real. Like most people have dreams. It's a neat trick of biology. I feel so misunderstood by everyone in my life, but I also suck at sharing my emotions. I have so much I want to say, but I don't know how to. Just do what you just did. I just want to point out that you said that you feel like you suck at doing this thing, but you literally did it. You also literally did it. So maybe it might be nice to give yourself a little more credit. Be a little kinder to yourself. Why do you think I pull out the feeling wheel all the time? So that I can figure out how I'm supposed to be feeling. It's alright to feel like you have a lot to say. I feel like a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people feel like they have a lot to say. So don't worry about figuring out how to say all of it right now. Just figure out where you would like to get started. And then go from there. There's a literal reason why we practice identifying our emotions on this stream every day. It's because a lot of people have a hard time figuring out how it is that they actually are feeling, and they also have a hard time sharing their emotions. We do this to try to challenge that, to try to get better at it. So you're not alone in that. It's something that everybody could get better at, something that everybody could work on. So when you're comfortable doing so, you can tell us here how you're feeling. We work really hard to make it the perfect place to be able to do that. If we feel misunderstood by other people, we probably also misunderstand ourselves to a degree. What I've come to find is that other people will never fully understand us, at least not to the level that we can understand ourselves. And the better we understand ourselves, the more effectively we're able to communicate what it is that we're feeling to other people. You're among friends, and we want to know how you're feeling, so feel free to share it when you feel ready to do that. No pressure. I'm feeling jubilation because the ladies at the ultrasound place made me feel welcome. Nothing quite like maternal love, huh? Just because someone is conservative doesn't make them mentally ill. No, but it does mean that they're more likely to have a larger amygdala. I didn't say, are you trying to talk to me? Like I said that conservatives are all mentally ill? I didn't say that. What I said was that posting paragraphs of like racist, homophobic, bigoted, like that is mentally ill. That is what I said. And I stand by that. You're not going to change my mind on that. That's just not healthy behavior, my guy. Talking about that freak who got banned. I agree. They're probably talking about the freak who got banned. And I shouldn't have to point out why what you said is wrong, but sometimes people really need you to point that out to them. Like, perpetuating the idea that Michelle Obama is a man is not only tremendously racist, but it's also transphobic and misogynistic. It's honestly just a disgusting thing to perpetuate, and you should probably do a deep level of self-reflection, because that's just gross behavior. Grow the fuck up. It's nasty. Why are you like that? Get help. Is that better? I do agree that Hillary would look great in a jumpsuit, though. I'm agreeing with that one. Lock them all up, TBH. Conservatives big on fear, brain study finds. Peering inside the brain with MRI scans, researchers at the University College of London found that self-described conservatives have a larger amygdala than liberals. The amygdala is an almond-shaped structure deep in the brain that is active during states of fear and anxiety. Liberals had more gray matter, at least in the anterior cingulate cortex, a region of the brain that helps people cope with complexity. Conservatives literally have a bigger fear center in their brain. That's why they're afraid of everybody. Why they're afraid of immigrants, that's why they're afraid of brown people, that's why they're afraid of gay people, that's why they're afraid of their neighbor, that's why they're afraid of everybody, that's why they have to carry around an emotional support rifle. You've always thought that leftist ideas are too complex for conservatives to grasp. I mean, you have to be able to sit down with them and maybe you can talk them through it and maybe you can explain it to them, make it make sense to them. Because I feel like most people, whether you are a leftist or a conservative, we have far more in common than we do alike. And it's the people who are actually in control, who have most of the capital and the ability to control our lives, that we should be worried about. We shouldn't be worried about each other. You know, like, we're in this together. We're all suffering under capitalism. It may be the same study, but there's a recent article of metadata that shows that over 170 people and over 150,000 people that notice a pretty interesting pattern. The personalities most likely to be attracted to conspiracies and conspiratorial thinking are those who are the most emotionally led, as in they perceive danger, and antagonistic towards other and superior acting. Right? Right? Another thing that they've found in research is that conservative people are more likely to see ambiguous stimuli as threatening. Something ambiguous, something that doesn't actually mean anything, something that could be totally harmless, they are more likely to be threatened. Because that's just how their brains are wired. It's wired for fear. But I feel like we're all scared, you know? Life is scary, and, you know, we could, you know, anything can happen. Life is scary. So what can we do about it to make it less scary? Like, why do we have to be afraid of our neighbors? Why do we have to feel like we have to walk around packing heat? I thought ambiguous was, like, vague. That's kind of what I was... Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Kind of like how a conservative might be more fearful of a person if their name sounds unusual to them, if it sounds like something that they're not familiar with. It's like they're not John, they're not Fred. It's like, oh, this person's name is Abdul. It starts to strike up fear inside of them. Hi, Papa. Would you be able to give some advice when you're going through a lot of change? I've been overwhelmed with how many things have been changing in my life. Since watching this stream, I've been implementing meaningful ways to address my old destructive habits, like getting in some stretching, meditation, keeping a journal to document my progress for the day, trying to redirect old coping mechanisms, etc. It's been hard to keep up good coping mechanisms, so I'm trying to be as kind as I can with myself, but I catch mistakes and sometimes I feel frustrated, which lasts throughout the day. You're doing really good, though. I just want to say, like, you're doing really well. Like, you're doing a lot of stuff that I wish more people would do. You're doing stuff that I struggle with making myself do every day, so... For example, I don't like the project I'm doing at work, so I might procrastinate and lay in bed or play games, and then I have this mentality I had in college where I can just wake up at like 4 a.m. and get the work done. It's self-destructive. I agree. What I would try to do in that is just try to pay attention to how you're feeling when you're procrastinating. Because what I've noticed within myself is that if I just lay in bed or play games when there's something else that I should be doing, I kind of feel guilty. I kind of feel bad. I kind of don't get the enjoyment out of whatever it is I'm doing that I would if I had waited until after I did the work. Rewards are much more satisfying if we delay them. Delayed gratification. It's an important skill to try to work on, especially in breaking a habit of procrastination. And we all struggle with it sometimes. We can't expect ourselves to be 100% perfect every single day. Sometimes we just have to settle with a passing grade. I find myself always trying to play catch-up in life. I just want to work towards being the person I want to become, which you are doing. Which you are doing, by the way. You are working on becoming the person that you want to be. But I'm feeling burned out and resort to old habits since the new changes I'm trying to do haven't been solidified yet. Thanks for the advice. You can always come back to those new habits. I would just try to focus on implementing 1 or 2 at a time. We want to make it manageable, and we want to feel like, because gradual change is the most efficient way of ensuring lasting change within our behaviors. When we try to change our behaviors rapidly, we're met with a lot of resistance. It can be done, but it's often much more difficult because you're having to change a lot within your brain. You're having to do a lot of rewiring and a lot of cognitive restructuring. New behaviors means changing your brain. You literally have to change the wiring of your brain when you're engaging in new and unique behaviors. And that can take some time to do, which is why it takes a little while for a habit to form or for a routine to develop. Give yourself some credit for doing the things that you are doing, and just keep working on them. Don't feel like you have to do every single thing that you could be doing to be mentally healthier all at once. The journey that we take through life is a million little baby steps. Just keep taking baby steps. You'll get to where you're trying to go. Honestly, you are doing really well though. And you're really aware, and this is good. This is good. Also, I have a video for you. This is a video that I like to turn to often. This is the video that I like to show people when they're finding themselves having a bad day, or maybe, you feel like life's just not going your way.
When you have a bad day, give up. Go home and sleep. Fuck it. Try again tomorrow. Not every bad day can become a good day. Some days are fucked and cannot be unfucked. When you have a day that is fucked beyond repair, that is the universe speaking to you, sending you a message. Listen to the universe. Go home. Save your energy. Tomorrow is another day. For now, just fucking chill.
Some days are fucked beyond repair and cannot be unfucked. Even the most proficient general knows the importance of a tactical retreat. You gotta yeah, right? You gotta live to fight another day. Some days cannot be unfucked is a potentially radical acceptance strategy. We love radical acceptance around here. I'm glad you brought it up. Radical acceptance is one of the skills that they teach you in DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. Let's talk about it for a second. How to embrace radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is defined as the ability to accept situations that are outside of your control without judging them, which in turn reduces the suffering that is caused by them. It's something that you see in Stoicism, if you're familiar with the philosophy of being stoic. Focusing more on that which you can control and letting go that which is outside of your control. Because when we feel anguish over that which is outside of our control, we are just guaranteeing more suffering for ourselves. I can't change whatever this is, but I can change how I feel about it. Radical acceptance is based on the notion that suffering comes not directly from pain, but from one's attachment to the pain. We've talked about this a lot, and a lot of what I try to teach people is to not tie your identity into your pain, because that will lead you to have a painful life. And that's also part of the reason why it can be so difficult to let our pain go, is because it is so attached to our concept of who we are. Acceptance is the first step towards change. Rather than being attached to a painful past, radical acceptance suggests that non-attachment is the key to overcoming suffering. It does not mean not feeling emotions. It doesn't mean that you just don't feel them. You gotta feel it to heal it. You emailed Marsha and she replied. That's pretty cool. Dr. Marsha Linehan came up with dialectical behavior therapy. It's a great form of therapy. It does not mean that you agree with what is happening or what has happened to you. It doesn't mean that you have to be okay with it. It doesn't mean that you approve of it. You don't agree with it. Rather, it signals a chance for hope because you are accepting things as they are and not fighting against reality. Like, maybe you had shitty parents. So what do you want to do about that? Like, do you want to feel pain and anguish and suffering over how you were treated as a child for your entire life? Or do you want to work on changing how you feel about those things? When it comes to things that have happened to us in the past, we have to accept them. past is locked in. We can't change it. Sorry, I'm a cheese ball. Oh, nope, 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 nope. No apologies. We like what you bring to the discussion. Always worth mentioning any other modality that isn't CBT. CBT is good, and CBT helps a lot of people, and that's why it's one of the most widely practiced forms of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. If you can change the way that you think, you can change the way that you act, and if you change your thinking and your behaviors, you can improve the quality of your life. That might not work for everybody. Some people prefer different styles of therapy. Some people like the psychoanalytic, some people like the Gestalt, some people like the existential. Some people like their therapy to be more like a meeting between two philosophers discussing the nature of existence. Some people prefer therapy to be homework and worksheets. If you missed it, we actually talked about the history of therapy, and we talked about a bunch of different styles of therapy the other day, so if that's something that you're interested in, we have a VOD, we did a presentation on it. So anyway, that's radical acceptance. Cutie Cheeks, thank you for gifting that sub. Pain is always a distress signal, but not always a sign of something distressing. Precisely. I feel like that's part of the reason why babies are born screaming, is because that abrupt change is painful and frightening. Unfamiliar sensations are often misinterpreted as pain initially. You were able to eat dinner yesterday? Hell yeah, Dean. Love to see it. What improved my mental health the most was just more resources. Getting on disability was a huge help. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of what we did as case managers was, if people weren't on disability, we tried to get them onto disability, because the financial stress of trying to survive as a person with a severe and persistent mental illness, but not having the financial resources to meet your basic needs, it only compounds and complicates your mental illness. Which is part of the reason why we adopt a housing, or it's becoming more popular, a housing first method of addressing homelessness. Historically, what we would have done with homeless people is, if you want to... Oop. I don't know why that song came on. I accidentally started playing my theme song. Normally what they would do, at least historically, with people who were homeless and trying to access housing resources, is they would say, okay, well, we can get you housing, but you have to be in treatment for your mental health, and you also have to be sober, so you have to go to, you know, substance abuse treatment as well, and we need to see all of these things from you. And that's really hard to do if you're homeless. It's just really extremely difficult to do all of those things. And what they found is that if you provide a person with a stable place to live, they can more easily meet all of those other needs. It's easier to go to therapy, it's easier to go to treatment, it's easier to go to your doctor's appointments if you don't have to worry about, where am I going to sleep? Am I going to be safe? Will I have food? Being homeless makes people's mental illness way worse. And oftentimes people who are homeless are judged based on how they present in that moment. But it's the panic and the fear associated with having to live on the streets that is making people so sick. Or at least much more sick than they might otherwise be if they had a stable place to be. No more drinkies. Alcohol is poison. Alcohol is poison. So pain is just very unfamiliar to us. In my... That's one of the things that I study within myself, you know, whenever I do meditation or reflection, is to focus on, you know, the nature of things such as pain and discomfort. I would just like to remind everybody that some people like pain. There are people out there who enjoy the sensation of being hurt, like whether it be, you know, a paddle or a whip or, you know, being stepped on or slapped or a signal. Does your brain interpret that nerve signal as pain, or does it interpret that nerve signal as pleasure? One of the things that I really admire about the human brain is that we can learn to love it. We can learn to love that which is uncomfortable for us. Stuff like meditation and yoga have found to be really helpful in managing chronic pain. How do you overcome food addiction? Anything involving food is something that we like to see, you know, specialized help in dealing with, because oftentimes our relationship to food can be tied to a lot of other things. Sometimes it's not just food, sometimes it's our body image, sometimes it's traumas that we've dealt with. You know, maybe there was a time in our life where we didn't have access to food, and so now we gorge ourselves on food because we were used to having to just eat as much as we could whenever we could because we weren't sure when we would get to eat again. So when it comes to dealing with a food addiction, part of what can help in that is understanding where that stems from, just taking a look at your relationship with food through history, and sometimes you'll want to do that with a specialist, somebody who knows what it's like and who specializes in treating disordered eating. In a general sense, though, one of the most helpful things that you can do when combating any addiction is take a moment to pause and ask yourself. I like to refer to this technique as stop and reflect. Before you do the thing that you're about to do, just ask yourself, why am I about to do this? Whether it be smoking or drinking or eating or whatever it may be, we're just trying to reinsert curiosity into the routine before we do the thing, rather than look at it retroactively after we do the thing and ask ourselves, why did I do that? I didn't want to do that. Why did I do that? Now I feel some type of way because I did that thing, and now I feel bad about doing that thing that I did. Sometimes the brain also misinterprets hunger signals. Sometimes it misinterprets. You may actually need water. You might actually need to hydrate yourself rather than eat. But sometimes the brain misinterprets thirst for hunger. Did you miss the presentation? No, we were waiting for you. We were waiting for you. Anyway, there's a lot that goes into treating food addiction. You know, if you have a hard time with like compulsive snacking, it's like sometimes you have to take extra measures like, okay, I can't trust myself to have it in the house because I'll just eat it. There's also things like portion control. Like if you're gonna eat some chips or something that comes in a bag, don't just take the whole bag with you. Just portion some out for yourself in like a little bowl or on a plate or a paper towel. Also, try to pay attention to how full you feel and try to stop when you feel about 80% full. Because the brain takes a little while to catch up as far as determining how full we actually are. And so if we wait to stop eating until we're actually feeling stuffed, that's overeating. You want to stop eating when you feel satisfied. Psychology is for conservatives. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Proud gun owner right here. I'm here to raise hell and praise Dale. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'll literally count every single chip I eat based on the serving size of the bag. That's boy math. Also, that's just you giving anxiety a job. If we're being real. Anxiety likes it when you give it a job. Hey, anxiety, watch my breathing. Hey, anxiety, count these potato chips. Do I like coffee? I love coffee. How can I help heal negative thought patterns with meditation in a more focused way? I've meditated before for the last couple years and enjoy it. I feel a lot more calm and clear-headed afterwards, and it can sometimes help heal a negative thought I'm having that day. But is there a more focused way to keep track of the feelings and thoughts you manifest during and after meditation so you can keep growing with it? I love meditation questions. I also love answering questions for people who are practiced in meditation to help them take their meditation to the next level. Here is my advice. Rather than focus on anything in particular, I want you to just try to focus on a general sense of what am I willing to let go of today? Which of my thoughts no longer serve me? Which ones am I ready to let go of? Have you ever been to a store where they're having a clearance, the store is closing and they're getting rid of a bunch of stuff? They're having a blowout sale. What I've found is that if you focus on letting go. If you just focus on trying to find what it is that you're most ready to let go of, your brain will point you in the right direction. So what I like to do is I like to just tell my mind, all right, we're letting go of that which does not serve me today, and then I just watch my brain as it works. I let my brain do the guiding. I don't try to guide it in any particular way. I don't try to focus on any particular idea or feeling or thought. I just set a goal, I set a direction, and I let my brain do the rest. Journaling it or tracking it or writing it down could be helpful if that's something that you are into. I've not journaled enough. I have always meant to journal more, but it's something I have a hard time doing. But journaling could also be helpful in that. Also, which part? Elaborate. I just want to point out that people have been meditating for thousands of years to help them with their mental issues, and it can be tremendously helpful. Also, when they put in the parts of their brain that are responsible for feeling stream lag it. I did drop a few frames, but it seems to be pretty stable at the moment. I hear you. Spooky Czar. I hear you. I get it. It might sound a little woo-woo, but this is something that I've observed to be true within myself, is that if I am looking for an idea, just sitting down and trying to force myself to think about it isn't really going to help me find the idea that I'm looking for. It might, but it might take longer than I anticipate. Sometimes just observing your thoughts and allowing your thoughts to just flow, it will bring you to where you're trying to go. All right. Meditation will cure poverty. I agree. But it can also give you an idea of your path out of poverty. Sometimes if you feel overwhelmed with all of life's problems, meditation is really good at helping you figure out which one of my problems should I work on first. So that's what I like meditation for. To help me with creativity, to help me set priorities, to help me feel calm and peaceful. Also, practice meditating on a feeling. Guide your brain in a certain direction and just tell yourself, I am meditating to feel the sensation of, and fill in the blank. What are you trying to feel more of? Connectedness, love, peace, inspiration, creativity, breakthrough. We ready to party? You ready? You ready for spaghetti? I just don't believe that that works. Have you tried it? Like, would I lie to you? Do you think I'm lying? I'm sitting here telling you these are things that I have done and I have found to be true, and I have observed them within myself. I have lived firsthand experience. Do you think I'm just pulling it out of my ass? Do you think that all of the other millions of people who meditate are also lying to you? Or maybe you just feel a little bit of despair and hopelessness, and you feel like maybe nothing will help me with these problems I'm dealing with, and so you feel like, why should I even bother? Why should I even try? It's not going to work. Let's try it for yourself and see what happens. Weird psychology. Weird psychology. You'll try it. Have you ever meditated before? I'm gonna plug myself here. If you haven't tried meditating before, I've actually got a video that I made, a guided meditation that's designed for beginners. And it's only 10 minutes. It's on my YouTube channel. But if you've never tried meditation before, give that one a try. Even video games are a cope. Hey, I like to use video games to cope. Sometimes it's nice to do something that you're good at to feel better about yourself. And if you're good at playing video games, helps you feel good. Weird psychology. Human behavior is a complex mystery. It's one that we're constantly working to solve. Throughout history, there have been countless instances of unusual and bizarre behaviors. If I were to put every single instance of weird psychology in here, this presentation would be 1,000,000 pages long. I wouldn't be able to fit them all. By studying these phenomena, we're able to further our understanding of how the human brain functions and shapes our behaviors. Do I have any recommendations on books about propaganda? I don't. 1984. There you go. That's a book about propaganda, isn't it? All right, let's start off with something interesting. This one comes from a book written by a doctor known as Oliver Sacks. Dr. Sacks wrote a book called The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. This is a famous case study that was conducted by neurologist Oliver Sacks in his book that was titled after this case. This case revolves around Dr. P. They kept his name confidential for his privacy reasons. He was a music teacher with a condition known as visual agnosia, which is a condition that impairs your ability to recognize familiar objects or faces. Dr. P's most notable episode occurred when he attempted to put on his wife's head instead of his hat, mistaking her for headwear. He thought she was a coat rack with a hat on it, and he tried to wear her head. So, this case shed a light on the complexities of perception and cognition, in particular, regarding how the brain processes visual information. Isn't the brain amazing? I don't believe that's real. I'm sorry, Lamau. No, it is real. And we're actually going to go over more stories from this guy's book. And some of them might even be more weird than this one. Dr. P's condition highlights the dissociation between sensory input and recognition, revealing that the brain has an ability to compensate for deficits in one area while preserving functionality in others. This is just one of the stories from this book. And it's totally real. It's totally real. A condition like this is relatively rare, but it is real. You're not sure if this is an ADHD problem, but your whole life you had issues with mechanical stuff like Legos, fixing stuff, just craftsmanship in general. What could be the issue there? Kind of depends on what the issue that you're having with it is. An issue of paying attention or continuing the process, or maybe getting distracted during the process. It could be an ADHD issue. So, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat is just one story from this book. The book is called The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks. Came out in 1985. Other stories include The Lost Mariner, about Jimmy G, who has anterograde amnesia, which takes away your ability to form new memories, due to Korsakoff syndrome. After a heavy episode of alcoholism in 1970, he basically damaged his brain so much through his alcohol use that he damaged his ability to form new memories, and he was stuck feeling like World War II just ended. As if it happened just a few minutes ago. Or how about the story about a ward of aphasiacs and agnosiacs? These are people who have a hard time understanding speech, or it's people who can understand speech, but they have a hard time understanding what it is that you're actually trying to say. Some people understand the structure, some people understand the content. It depends on which type of brain damage you have. You have different parts of your brain that are attributed to different aspects of speech, different types of aphasias. So they played a speech from Ronald Reagan. Many people laughed at the speech while others were shocked. The people who struggled with words, the aphasiacs, they can understand natural speech because the words are paired with expressive cues. and they're aware when words and cues do not match. Some people perceived the words without understanding them and found them to be illogical. Or how about the disembodied lady, the story of a woman who lost her entire sense of proprioception, which is the sense of the position of parts of the body relative to other neighboring parts of the body, due to acute polyneuropathy. Over the course of months, she learned to control her body by visual feedback alone. Imagine having to learn how to move your hand or your legs by watching them move. How about the man who fell out of bed? The story of a young man that we found on the floor of the hospital room. He says he woke up to find a strange leg in his bed, and he assumed that somebody was playing a prank on him. He then tries to throw the leg out of the bed, only to find that it was attached to him. Then this is a case of something known as somatoparaphenia. The denial of one's own limbs, or perhaps even an entire side of a person's body. It happened in an episode of Grey's Anatomy. A person thought that they had a foot that wasn't theirs, and then they cut it off with a chainsaw, but that was just TV. So anyway, this book has all sorts of interesting stories about case studies that this doctor worked on. All sorts of interesting and unique stories of, neurology and psychology. How about a woman in her 60s who has a condition known as hemispatial neglect? She completely forgets the idea of left. When nurses place food or drink on her left side, she fails to recognize that they are there. Is phantom limb similar? It is similar in the sense that, like, in a phantom limb situation, it's like you lose a limb, but you still feel like you have it. So it's basically the opposite of phantom limb, but it operates on a similar mechanism. It's all about how your brain interprets nerve impulses. And so if your brain has something happen to it and it damages how you interpret those nerve pulses from a part of your body, you might start to feel like that's not a part of your body. It's somebody else's body, and it's attached to you. There's also a story about a guy named Stephen D. who, after a night under the influences of a bunch of different drugs, he wakes up to find that he has a tremendously heightened sense of smell. Sachs later revealed many years later that he actually was that guy. This actually was the guy who wrote the book. Talk about a weird superhero origin story. Like, well, I was up all night on amphetamines, cocaine, and PCP, and I woke up a super smeller, and now I can solve mysteries. Anyway, that's all from that book. And this is just the first slide. We've got a lot of ground to cover today. Let's talk about the case of Clive Wearing. Clive was an English musician who developed profound amnesia following a viral infection that damaged his brain's hippocampus. All right, class, do we remember what the hippocampus is? Do you remember what the hippocampus does? Memory, good. Memory, yes. Can we be more specific? What type of memory? Remember, memory is stored in different locations in the brain depending on if it is... Yes, long time, yes. It is your long-term memory storage. It's where you store your long-term memories in your hippocampus. So if you're having a hard time forming new memories, it's because everything that you're happening in that moment is basically, it's in your short-term memory storage. Like, I remember I have a cup here. I remember I have a water bottle right over here. But after a few minutes, I might forget and be like, hey, wait, where was I? What was I doing? What was I talking about? Your short-term memory can last anywhere from a few moments to a few minutes. And if you have damage to your hippocampus, you don't have the ability to store those memories long-term, and so you develop a condition known as anterograde amnesia. However, despite his inability to form new memories, he retained his musical abilities and his emotions, which provided us a lot of insight into memory and consciousness. This is, remember that other guy we talked about yesterday? HM, patient HM, the guy who had seizures back in the 50s, and they removed his hippocampus in an attempt to stop his seizures. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about the dancing plague. Has anyone not heard of this before? Is this new to anyone? Has anyone not heard of this before? If you haven't heard this before, this is going to blow your mind. This is going to blow your mind. In the 16th century, there are several recorded instances of a dancing plague occurring in Europe, where large groups of people would dance uncontrollably for days or even weeks. We're not exactly sure what caused this, but there are a lot of theories. One theory is mass hysteria. Another theory is ergo poisoning, which is a type of, I think it's a type of mold, or it's a type of some type of like bacteria or something, and it grows on bread, like grain, and it has hallucinogenic properties. LSD is, it was originally synthesized from ergo, I think. Or maybe I'm getting it confused with something else. But regardless, psychoactive properties. You're convinced it's similar to the TikTok dancing stuff? Right? Which is why some people say that this is also an insight into the effect of culture and environment on our behaviors. Let's watch a short video.
Dancing compulsively in the streets, with many unable to stop even when restrained or physically exhausted. The dancers continued day and night, with many dancing until they collapsed and died. The mysterious dancing plague, which lasted into the heat of August, is said to have claimed as many as 400 lives. The bizarre outbreak began with a single woman, Frau Truffaut, who danced on her own for almost a week before she was joined by several others. As soon as the plague started spreading, more were quick to join in, and by the second week around 30 people were affected. It is documented that the dancers would continue their frenzied jigs long past the point of injury. Some would froth at the mouth. Some appeared to be gripped by painful convulsions. They moved without music, without joy, and seemingly without control. When one dancer dropped dead of exhaustion, the others would continue to dance around the body, unable even to move away. Many cried out for help from onlookers as they danced.
Isn't this wild? This is one of those interesting mysteries from histories. A lot of theories, a lot of speculation as to what caused it. There's also a lot of documentation. A lot of people observed this happening. A lot of people wrote about it and documented what was happening. So it's an unusual mystery.
But how to help these people? The city council were baffled by the incident and tried a number of cures. These ranged from restraining dancers by wrapping them in cloth to herding the dancing masses into guild halls where music was laid on in the hope that it would help the dancers to exercise the need to dance from their bodies.
So they said, all right, everybody, get into the guild hall. We're going to play some music and we're going to dance it out. That's the problem. Your body really needs to party. You just need to dance it out of your system. Let's get some music going.
If anything, however, this only exacerbated the problem.
Well, yeah, it's music.
Modern explanations for what happened
It's gonna make you want to dance more.
range from mass epilepsy to communal food poisoning with a psychoactive substance. The true explanation is much simpler, however, and much more unnerving. The Strasbourg dancing plague of 1518 was not a unique incident. Similar plagues of manic dancing had struck small towns and villages all along the River Rhine for many years, but these had affected a relatively small number of people and had often subsided without any deaths. The only thing that affected settlements had in common was a belief system, specifically the belief in St. Vitus, a Catholic saint. It was believed by many that St. Vitus could curse the sinful to dance themselves to death.
So a lot of this could also be tied into just expression of belief. Really interesting stuff to think about. The brain is wired for suggestibility, and could people convince themselves that they can't stop dancing? They see everybody else dancing, and you also have this belief in this saint that was known to make people dance until they die, or something like that. I believe nothing. That's very cosmic trigger of you.
This strongly held belief, combined with the stress of seeing others dance against their will, may have been what compelled many of the dancers to join in the mania. The problem was in their minds, but no less real and no less deadly for that. As St. Vitus had caused the plague, St. Vitus would prove to be the only functional solution to it. After almost 2 months, officials hit upon the idea of taking affected dancers to a mountaintop shrine to the saint, where they could pray for absolution. Given this chance to set their guilty souls at ease, many dancers found that they were able to regain control of their limbs and finally stop dancing. The plague, thus cured, died out in the early days of September 1518. It would be the most severe and the last dancing plague ever to strike Europe. As Blyth and St. Vitus died out, so too did this strange and deadly phenomenon. It remains recorded in the history books as one of the strangest episodes of mass mania ever to occur.
Yep, it's up there with January 6th. Mass mania. So, how about that one? Just a little bit from history for you. Definitely weird. I think that, like most situations, the truth is probably somewhere in between. It could probably be a little bit of both. Like, maybe they did eat some bad rye, maybe they did have exposure to a hallucinogen, but maybe they were also pushed by religious and social pressures. It could be a little bit of both. That's probably the most realistic explanation. Shall we continue? Let's talk about something really weird. Let's talk about Charles Bonnet syndrome. Charles Bonnet syndrome is a condition that is characterized by complex visual hallucinations in individuals with visual impairment or loss. These hallucinations can range from simple patterns to detailed scenes and happen often in older adults. So despite the vividness of these hallucinations, these individuals with CBS retain insight into the unreal nature of their experiences. So they are having visual hallucinations, but they understand that they are just hallucinations. And so it's different from something like schizophrenia, where a person might experience this type of thing, visual hallucinations, but they realize that they aren't real. So this syndrome highlights the intricate relationship between sensory perception, cognition, and brain function. It also offers some insights into how the brain compensates for sensory deficits. Like I said, a lot of the people who develop this type of condition have visual impairment or vision loss, because what the brain does is, in lack of sensory input, the brain will just start to make things up. That's why sensory deprivation tanks make you see things, because you're shutting off all of your senses. So what does your brain do? It just starts to make things up. It also helps us to understand the mechanisms underlying hallucinations in various neurological conditions. Things like schizophrenia. Charles Bonnet syndrome, highly underreported and often misdiagnosed. It was first reported over 250 years ago by the naturalist Charles Bonnet. That's where it gets its name from. 10 to 15% of the people find their imagery pleasurable. Another 85 to 90% do not. These hallucinations can last up to a few seconds, or last from a few seconds up until a day or more. 38% of people living with CBS admitted to experiencing hallucinations. This is one of those things where it's often underreported because admitting that you're experiencing visual hallucinations is very stigmatizing, and so a lot of people don't talk about it. It's very underreported. Simple hallucinations are also more common than complex ones. Some examples would be, a complex hallucination would be A room that you are in morphing into a war zone. You may also have a simple hallucination, such as you see an animal, or maybe a small little person. You may also see something, you know, a complex hallucination, a sinister figure in your house, creepy clown guy or something. Charles Bonnet Syndrome. That sounds scary. Not if you're part of the 10 to 15% of people who find their imagery pleasurable.
I was in a chemist and I was queuing and I knew that there were other people there. Physically knew there were other people there. But these, from the sides, floating torsos started coming in, and every which way I was trying to look to like get them out of my view. And I just put my basket of stuff down, ran out of the shop, ran home. I remember being petrified just because of what I had or hadn't seen.
One lady, she sees men sitting on her bed at night time. These men are sort of leering at her. She shakes the duvet to get these men off her bed, but of course they're still there.
Your brain is trying to fill in what you can't see. So in a way, it's being overactive, quite scary. As it progressed, I thought I was losing my mind.
How are we doing? Are we hanging in there? Are we hanging in there? Are we too scared? Can we continue? You have a friend that sees birds like this? See, that's the thing about this condition, is it occurs in people who are losing their sight. And it's your brain filling in things. It's kind of like a waking dream. And it can be really frightening. Anyway. Shall we continue? Let's talk about this guy. This guy is a fellow by the name of Kim Peek. And Kim was the inspiration behind the character Raymond Babbitt in the movie Rain Man. Kim had an exceptional memory and he could recall vast amounts of information on a wide range of topics, but he also had significant cognitive disabilities. And his case was the highlight of the brain's remarkable capacities and the potential of savant syndrome. Going back to the previous one that we were talking about, Charles Bonnet syndrome, do you think that that could have a correlation with something like sleep paralysis? Normally people who have sleep paralysis, it's like what? It's like the room is probably dark, you probably can't see that well. There's probably a bit of a correlation there. So Kim was the real life Rain Man. If you've heard of the movie Rain Man, if you haven't heard of the movie Rain Man, it's a bit of a dated reference. I haven't actually seen the movie myself. He had a one-of-a-kind brain. He was able to read 2 pages at a time. He could recite the day of the week for any date in history, and he memorized some 12,000 volumes. His brain lacked the cluster of nerves that connect the 2 hemispheres of the brain. It was a rare birth defect known as agenesis of the corpus callosum. Which, if you're familiar with the corpus callosum is the connective tissue that connects the 2 halves of your brain. You basically have 2 brains, 2 halves of one brain that are connected via the corpus callosum, but if you were to split that connective tissue, you basically got 2 little brains that can't talk to each other anymore. All right. Are you ready to get a little... This one's a little freaky. This one's a little freaky. This one's called Cotard syndrome. This is a rare psychiatric condition where an individual holds the delusional belief that they are dead, or that they do not exist, or that they've lost their internal organs or their blood. This intriguing disorder provides us insights into the brain's perception of self and reality. It's very rare. There's only been a few hundred documented cases, which is very rare compared to other things. These are all new to you. You'll see this often with people who have very severe depression, because sometimes what happens in a severe depression is you also start to develop psychosis. Give me 1 sec, I gotta take this phone call. That was the mechanic. I gotta go pick the truck up. I gotta go pick the truck up soon. Yeah, the truck was at the mechanic getting some stuff tuned up. So I've got to go pick it up here in a little bit. But we're going to wrap this up first. So let's continue. You ready for a really freaky one? Well, before I pass up on this one, what I was saying before is that sometimes what people will experience during a very severe depression is an accompanying psychosis. Sometimes you get so depressed that it actually starts to manifest psychosis within a person. And one of those examples would be something like this. Shall we continue? This is one of the ones that I find to be very interesting. This one is known as Capgras syndrome. Capgras syndrome is a psychiatric disorder where individuals hold the delusional belief that a close relative or friend has been replaced by an identical imposter. This condition sheds light on the intricate relationship between facial recognition, emotion, and belief systems in the brain. So what is
I have a question, and
that was the TikTok somebody posted. A rare condition where someone believes that a loved one is not who they say they are. They believe that the person is an imposter or a double. And this can sometimes lead to aggression or violence. People with this syndrome often have another mental health condition, such as schizophrenia or dementia. It's not a diagnosis on its own, it's just a type of delusion that you will see in people with some other type of condition. Another interesting type of delusion is the Frigoli delusion, where you believe people around you are familiar even when they're strangers. So it's kind of the opposite. Isn't that interesting? How the brain can do both of those things? We're not exactly sure what causes it. But it's most commonly tied to schizophrenia or dementia. Approximately 16% of people with Alzheimer's experience this syndrome. Of people with Lewy body dementia, as many as 28%. So it really is, it's tied significantly to things like dementia. That's all we're gonna talk about today. That's gonna be it. I don't want to melt anybody's brain. So we're gonna leave we're just gonna leave it with those ones today. But as I said, there are many more of these different type of unique and interesting and rare conditions. This is just a highlight of some of those conditions. Already melted? Yeah, me too. The brain is a marvelous thing. It's capable of all sorts of thoughts and sensations and perceptions, and I hope that we highlighted that today, from people engaging in fits of dancing for days and weeks at a time, to people believing that they are dead, to people believing that their loved ones have been replaced by a body double. And so while our understanding of the brain has vastly improved, there's still many unsolved mysteries regarding human behavior. A lot of the stuff we talked about today, we're still not entirely sure why they happen. We're still trying to unravel these mysteries. Above all else, one truth remains: the human brain wants to understand itself. We want to understand our own nature. We want to understand our own behaviors, and we've been working on doing that for thousands of years, just trying to understand ourselves better through observation and study. And what we've come to find is that the brain is remarkably complicated, and that human behavior can be shaped in any number of different ways due to any number of different conditions. You'll need to write all this down. You can write it down if you want to, or I can give you a copy of the slides if that's easier. If that's easier, I can give you a copy. Yeah, I'll post a copy in the Discord. If anybody wants to learn more about any of those things that we talked about today. So yeah, this is just a sampling of the wild world of psychology. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Let's take a look at these clips that people shared real quick.
I have a question, and don't jump me for this. What is a vitamin? What is a vitamin? I'm not looking it up. You know when they say like vitamins and minerals? I know what the minerals part is. It's like rocks and stuff. It's like calcium and magnesium, whatever. What is a vitamin?
It depends on which vitamin you're talking about. Some vitamins are compounds, some vitamins are elements. Like vitamin K, for example, is potassium. So some vitamins are chemical compounds, meaning that they are multiple elements in conjunction. Some vitamins are just single elements.
What is vitamin D? Like, what is it made of? Like, I know what it is. It's vitamin D. You get it from the sun or whatever. But what is it, like, made of? And how do we get it from the sun?
Your body produces it as a response to being exposed to the sun. You're not actually getting vitamin D from the sun. Vitamin D production occurs within your body as a result of sun exposure.
like, I understand like calcium you get from like milk or whatever, but like how does, because it's in the milk, how is the vitamin D in the sunlight?
It isn't.
What is it made of? I feel like
it isn't. It isn't in the sunlight. Sunlight is made of photons, and photons are some of the lightest molecules that exist. They don't carry anything with them. It's just light energy. They're not carrying around little vitamins with them. That's not... Vitamin D is produced in your body as a response to sun exposure. That's why they say that vitamin D you can get by getting sunlight, but it's not because the vitamin D is in the sunlight. These are vitamins. Retinoids and carotene. We call that vitamin A. Vitamin B1 is thiamine. Vitamin B2 is riboflavin. Niacin is vitamin B3. There's also B5, B6, B12. Biotin is a vitamin. Vitamin C is ascorbic acid. Choline is a vitamin. Calciferol is vitamin D. These are just named for different chemical compounds, like folic acid. Some of them are minerals. They say, you know, get your vitamins and your minerals. Some minerals are labeled as vitamins. I know it's confusing, but there's just not really much like control or oversight as far as how they refer to it. There's a little bit blurry between what's a vitamin, what's a mineral. Sometimes they just refer to them all as vitamins, but it's not technically a vitamin. It might actually be a mineral.
I feel like vitamins shouldn't be made of other things, if that makes sense. Like, they should be their own elements on the periodic table. Like, again, I'm not looking this up, but if you tell me that...
That's a mineral. If it's on the... Okay.
Vitamin D is made of, like, helium or something, I'm going to lose my mind. I have a...
It's the term vitamin is basically just a term. Vita min. Think about it. Vita min. Vita referring to vital, vitality. Min referring to mineral or some other type of compound. Scurvy is scary. Scurvy is scary. Do you know what scurvy does to you? It basically makes you unzip. If you have scurvy and you have a vitamin C deficiency, literally like all of the scars on your body just pop open. Because maintaining like a scar is an active process that is done by your body, and it requires vitamin C to do that. So if you have scurvy, you pop open, you unzip. All of your scars open back up. Cool, huh? Oh, it's this guy. This guy just pretends to be terrible. Let's see what he's doing.
Act like their life sucks.
Let me refresh, because apparently I can't... So you're telling me it starts out muted and I can't rewind, so I have to, like...
Life sucks.
Unmute and then...
Clients, therapists secretly hate. The blabbermouth. These are the ones who just won't shut up. The emo. These are the people who don't have any problems and still act like their life sucks. The psycho. These are the ones who are genuinely crazy, and I'm worried they're gonna harvest my organs. The normal person. Why are you even here? The cringy loser. These people have no idea how cringy they really sound, and it'd be too much work to ever tell them. 5 types of clients, they're...
This guy's not actually a therapist. This guy is a satirical comedian, and he just basically pretends to be the worst person on the internet. He does all sorts of like different stuff. Like he'll pretend to be a priest. Like all sorts of like... He's just trying to be intentionally controversial. All right, we got a couple questions left in the question box. I'm going to take those real quick. I'm going to take these questions real quick, and then I've got to go pick up the car. I got to go pick up the truck from the shop. So let's take a look. You know the deal. I got to put this over here, and I got to... Okay, let's go like this. There we go. Hello, Joshua and friends. Hello. For the past few months, I've been struggling with my mental and physical health. More so the latter as of late. So much so that I've had to forfeit my independence and move back in with my parents. They've been really understanding and supportive, which is a breath of fresh air considering they've had a very get-over-it mentality in the past. Hopefully they've learned and see like just where they get-over-it mentality gets you. It doesn't really get you very far. I'm in a very loving relationship, but I feel as though I am dragging down my partner in terms of finances and not being able to give them the energy they deserve. I want to be someone they're proud to be with and be able to spoil and support them as well as myself, but when it comes to my physical health, I've gone from having dislocated ribs to a kidney stone to newly struggling with a lot of heart and chest pain, all within the span of 3 months. It feels like I have lost all sense of productivity and have reached a point where I can hardly fathom holding down a regular 9-to-5 job, or even part-time for that matter. Your job right now is getting better. Your job right now is in healing. That is your job right now. So try your best to focus on that. You know, being a better partner, being a better worker, all of those other things, those are all second to... You need to focus on healing and getting better. Focus on treating those physical health issues, because those physical health issues are also affecting your mental health. They're very closely related. Like this. I've considered going on disability, but I know the process is very extraneous and takes a long time to get approved. Not necessarily. If you're involved in mental health treatment, there might be a Medicaid or disability specialist that works at the facility that can help to expedite that process. It's worth a shot. Also, applying and then waiting, it's better to get that process started the sooner you can. I feel like I'm caught in a cycle of not doing much to work towards any goals and make excuses to myself and justify my laziness with my health issues. I just want to point out how this is the conjunction of your physical health issues and your mental health issues. Feeling bad about needing to take time to focus on healing, it's not going to help you heal. Just keep trying to take the small steps that you can and working towards your goals. It makes sense that things might slow down and you might feel like you're not making much progress as you're working on healing, but that's okay. It's become extremely difficult to hold myself accountable for my future when I feel like I'm constantly facing new health issues. What can I do to feel less guilty or like a liability and work towards my goals that require money when I feel I have no viable way of making a living? Cross that bridge when you come to it. That is a goal that is out in your future. Right now, your goal is I need to get better. You've got a support network, you've got your family, you've got your partner that can be there for you to help be supportive. It's okay to take the time that you need to focus on healing. In fact, it's essential for your own well-being. We've got some great advice in the chat for people who have been going through similar situations. And those are the types of people that you'll want to turn to in this time. Reach out to the people who have gone through similar things and share your story with them and talk to them about what helped them get through those feelings. It can be tremendously healing. But right now, your job is getting better. Right now, your job is addressing these health issues and getting to a place where your other goals will feel more manageable. So right now, that's what you should be focusing on, is getting better. Worry about the other stuff after you feel better. That's okay. Because when you think about it, if you had to push yourself into, working or something like that, but you weren't ready for it, how could that potentially affect you in the long run? It could make your other issues even worse. Maybe you force yourself to do something when you're not ready to do it, and it just ends up contributing to both your physical and your mental health issues. So it's okay to focus on healing for a while. It's okay. Substitute Scholar mentioned habitualizing shame with your healing. That's a really good point. We don't want shame to be ingrained with our healing. We don't want to feel bad and guilty for taking the time that we need to focus on healing ourselves. I wish you the best of luck, questioner. Just do what you need to do to take good care of yourself, okay? That's what's most important. Those other problems, you know, if you want to start applying for disability or other benefits, get that process started. That'll probably help you to feel more accomplished, like you're working towards your goals. So maybe start getting that process started. What is psychosis? Psychosis is a bit of an umbrella term that covers a lot of different symptoms that have to do with detachment from reality. We often talk about psychotic symptoms in two different ways. There are what are referred to as the positive symptoms, and when I say positive, I don't mean good. I just mean positive as in something is being added. So examples of positive symptoms of psychosis would be things like hallucinations or delusions, or, you know, different like you can experience all sorts of types of, you know, sensory hallucinations. You could be visual, auditory, olfactory, you know, you smell things that aren't really there, or gustatory, you taste things that aren't really there. So those are what we refer to as positive symptoms. Think something is being added that wouldn't be there if it weren't for the condition. A different way of thinking, a different type of sensory experience, hallucinations. And there's also what is referred to as negative symptoms, as in something is being taken away. Oftentimes what we see in people who experience psychosis is they have cloudy thinking or disorganized thinking, or they have a rigid affect. Maybe they talk very blunt and everything is very monotone, and they don't really have that full range of emotional expression that you would normally see in a person. So that's psychosis. It's a bit of a broad term, but it's just, in general, it's a detachment from reality. Does that make sense? Thanks for dedicating your time and energy to this stream. Very therapeutic, very cool. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. It takes more strength to be nice than it does to be mean, so thank you for your strength. Somebody mowing their yard or something? I swear, I smell like maybe they're doing something out in the house. I'm like, I smell something weird. Is schizophrenia similar to psychosis? You can't have schizophrenia without psychosis, but you can have psychosis without schizophrenia. Does that make sense? Psychosis is what we would use as a term to refer to some of the symptoms of schizophrenia, but sometimes we experience psychosis outside of schizophrenia. Some people experience psychosis such as delusional thinking or even hallucinations that are associated with their mood state. Sometimes people will become manic and they will have psychosis. Sometimes people will become very depressed and they will experience psychosis. All right, let's get through these questions. I gotta go pick my truck up I gotta go get my truck from the mechanic. I gotta go pick her up. They had to replace a part in the front suspension in order for it to pass inspection, and so it was pretty expensive, let me just say. I gotta go up to the mechanic. I gotta go pay $1,400. Is Havana syndrome real, or is it an early retirement racket? I don't know. I feel like living a life as a chronic bootlegger, living life as a chronic bootlicker will have impacts on your physical and mental health. So I feel like Havana syndrome, you know, maybe it's a result of being experimented on. Maybe it's a result of being exposed to bizarre chemical agents, unusual ultrasound or microwave weapons. Or maybe it's just a side effect of licking boots for decades. It's just a it's just a side effect of chronic boot licking disease. I've been doing a lot better at daily eating. That's good. You got GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, also more commonly referred to as acid reflux, or it's a chronic form of acid reflux. I've been doing a lot better at eating daily and not procrastinating. You're a college senior. Hey, there you go. You're almost there. Keep it going. Which has resulted in less stress and more confidence. Yes. You love to see that. I find myself in a position where I'm not stressed or upset, but I don't feel happy. I'd say content, but it doesn't have the same satisfaction. I want to implement more things that will make me happy, but spending all my time on work is the only reason I'm caught up and not stressed. How can I transition into more self-care without impeding on my productivity? Take time away from some of your other unhealthy activities, like maybe less doom scrolling, less binge watching. I don't know. I'm not saying that you do those things, but self-care doesn't have to be something that takes all day. It doesn't even have to take more than 20, 30 minutes. So if you can find just even a small amount of time to carve out for yourself, that's still a meaningful gesture. And then when you're less busy, you can expand that time. Also, like Tiny Meow said, recognize that self-care is also productive. Nothing is something worth doing. It's important to view self-care as productive because we need to feel like we aren't wasting our time in doing something that we actually need to do. Like, self-care is essential to your mental health. So of course it's productive. So I would say just find a few minutes in the day where you can do something for no other reason than it's something that you want to do. Doesn't have to be more complicated than that. You could go for a little walk. You could listen to some of your favorite music and just sit there and just listen to it. Just don't feel like you have to do anything else. Do something you want to do. Practice a hobby, talk to friends, read a book, take a bath, light a candle. All of the above. If you're not used to being happy, happiness is a skill that you have to practice. You have to become more attuned to happiness. You have to become more proficient and skilled in the art of being happy. So just keep practicing it. You'll get there. You're doing great though, by the way. Did I say it? You're doing great. So just keep up the good work. You'll be just fine. Does Casey know that there are 2.2 thousand people watching her on Twitter? There should be more, honestly. There should be 220,000 people watching her on Twitter. Also, the way that Twitter views work is that... Also, happy 420, by the way. Twitter views for live streams, they show like your total viewer count, like everybody who's clicked through. So that might not be, it's not your concurrent viewer count. It's not how many viewers you have right now. It's just how many people have seen it. That's how Twitter calculates it for some reason. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Anyway, gang. Anyway, I gotta go and pick up the truck. I gotta wrap up a little early today because I gotta go up to the mechanic before they close. Okay. But I'll be back again tomorrow, alright? I'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for hanging out. Be sure to dance on your way out. That's my only request. You know what to do. Just a little bit of boogieing. That's all I ask for. All right, everybody. We'll be back again tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. I will see you tomorrow. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.
Back with the bass, pajamas live in effect, and I don't waste time. On the mic with a dope rhyme. Jump to the rhythm, jump to the rhythm, jump. And I'm here to combine beats and lyrics to make you shake your pants, take a chance. Come on and dance, guys. Grab a girl, don't wait, make a twirl. It's your world and I'm just a squirrel. Trying to get a nut to move your butt to the dance floor. So yo, what's up? Hands in the air. Come on, say yeah. Everybody over here, everybody over there. The crowd is live and I will do this groove. Party people in the house, move. Groove.